Hey guys, how's it going? I hope everyone's doing well, as usual. So I'm back again today with yet another response video. This is kind of like a response to a response video, if that makes sense. So you'll know that in my last video, I did a response to Mercyful Metal, which was talking about 10 albums where the opening track is the best. Then somebody else did a slight variation on that. So I'm not sure if they invited other people to do it as a thread, but I'm just going to respond anyway because I think it's really interesting. So there was another YouTuber called JustAnotherHeavyMetalManiac, and he came up with the idea of a slight variation of that, which is 10 albums where the closing track is the best, so the last or the final track of the album. And I thought that's a really good idea, like just a slight variation on Thomas's idea, or the opposite perhaps, but I thought it made for really interesting choices. So if you're not familiar, JustAnotherHeavyMetalManiac, I'm not sure of his real name, he just goes by that moniker, but he's a guy from Canada, and I discovered his album only recently actually. That was through Thomas's thread about 10 albums where the opening track is the best, and then all of a sudden I just went down this rabbit hole looking at his channel. He's made loads of videos and they're really entertaining. I just really enjoy them a lot. Like, he talks about all different kinds of topics, and he's also done a lot of ranking videos. Most importantly for me, he did a Marduk ranking video, and I've never seen one before to my knowledge, and I just really enjoyed that a lot, and I thought a lot of his choices were similar to mine. He also did a Suffocation ranking recently, which I really enjoyed because I need to get educated about that band a bit. And I think just today he uploaded an Abigor ranking. So yeah, he's very knowledgeable, very articulate, and his videos are just so professionally done in terms of the speaking and delivery. So if you haven't actually checked out his channel or heard about it, definitely do so. So I'll leave the link in the description. That's JustAnotherHeavyMetalManiac from Canada. So if you're watching, yep, love your channel, man, and really good idea for a thread, even though you said it's not officially a thread, but I'm going to jump on this one because I thought it looked like fun. So yeah, 10 albums where the last track is the best. So as JustAnotherHeavyMetalManiac said, that's a little bit more challenging in some ways, because usually bands, you know, like to highlight their money song at the beginning of the album, maybe the first track or the second, something like that, or maybe save it towards the middle of the album. But usually it's not common for a band to include their best song at the end. However, I do understand this is just subjective. So what, in my opinion, is the best song being the last track, and other people might not agree with. But in the end, I was actually spoiled for choice. Like, I thought it was going to be difficult. Now I actually have more than 10, but don't worry, I'm not going to do more than 10 today. But yeah, remember, I'm not saying my opinion's the law or mine's accurate or correct, but these are just, in my opinion, 10 albums where the closing or final track is the best. So what I like about the list that I've done is there's some variety in the genres. So I think I've got 5 different subgenres of metal in my list of 10. And yeah, let's go. All right, so just looking at these in alphabetical order. Okay, so just to recap, this video is about 10 albums where the closing track is the best, in my opinion. So first of all, from Cannibal Corpse's Butchered at Birth album. I don't need to say much about this album, everyone knows it. I love this. I think this is one of their best, like, it was probably in their top 3 for me, simply because it's the darkest, especially something weird about the production. And you know, the bass is high, the bass level is high in the mix, and you hear, it just sounds so dark and murky and creepy, and Chris's unintelligible vocals just blend with that low down-tuned music so well, and there's no reverb on the vocals, so they sound really in your face and disturbing. Absolutely fantastic, but everyone knows this album. So many brilliant tracks, like Meat Hook Sodomy is one of the first Cannibal Corpse tracks I ever heard. Gutted has some catchy breakdowns. Another one I really like, Under the Rotted Flesh, that main riff is just so damn catchy. Oh god, I can just start singing that. Covered with Sores is epic with that slow, awesome, hypnotic riff. Now, Vomit the Soul was probably one of my favorite. That used to be my favorite song on this album for sure, because there's a lot of catchy moments in that, especially with the vocal patterns and Glenn Benton's guest vocals. The title track is fantastic, a lot of grooves in that. But yes, in fact, my favorite track on the album is the last one, Innards Decay. And that sort of crept up on me, like even when I first heard this album, I did like that song, but it was within a couple of months I decided that was my favorite, because what I like about it is there's just so many twists and turns in that song. Just like I said with Shredded Humans, like Innards Decay is just a riff salad of a song, but I mean that in a good way. Like it starts off with some slow, groovy, heavy riffs, and I love the way Chris's vocals come in and he's just growling along to the riff, like no words or anything, but it sounds just awesome, like just getting into it. And oh yeah, like I said, with all the different twists and turns in this song, it's amazing. Like I especially like that part with the first, after the slow part, the fast riff, that line where he says, "The coming eve of darkness, the chosen one will come," and then it launches into this bouncy, galloping, screechy, haunting, scary guitar solo, which is awesome, which then goes fast and frantic. Then there's some groovy, thrashy riffs and fantastic vocal patterns from Chris. And yeah, just like it's a bit like the song Shredded Humans, in that they go from one riff to another. There's brilliant guitar solos on this song, like that opening one, but then later on as well. And then towards at the end of the track, they return to that original riff. So, you know, that's sort of like the death metal equivalent of a song structure, but really good. And then it slows down for this doomy, haunting, dark ending. And I especially like the lyrics in that part at the very end of the song. You know, eyes gouged out, bodies cut in half, twisted corpses hang from broken necks. Something, 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 impaled cranium beginning to drain. One of my favorite Cannibal Corpse lyrics. And like when it's that slow doomy bit when he says, "Drain," like the song just fades out suddenly. But it's such a haunting, creepy end to the album. But honestly, this album, Butcher to Birth, all killer, no filler. But my favorite track is Innards Decay. All right. Now, up next, coming to some black metal. Not surprisingly, perhaps. Now, this one just made the list last night because I'd forgotten about it, but undoubtedly, this is an album where the last track is the best in my opinion. From Carpathian Forest, Defending the Throne of Evil. So, of course, Carpathian Forest is an underrated Norwegian black metal band. They were never part of that so-called black circle scene. They had this self-imposed exile from it, and they just did their own thing. And I think their music is so incredibly atmospheric. Like, it's up there in the atmosphere stakes with Emperor, especially with the way they use their keyboards, and it's also really creepy and haunting. This album here, Defending the Throne of Evil, is undoubtedly my favorite. I just love so many tracks on this, like, for example, Skjend Hans Lik, which means humiliate his corpse. Also, The Well of All Human Tears is good. Now, I used to think one of my favorites, and this is a very close second, is the song Spill the Blood of the Lamb. The way they use the keyboards and that, it's fucking creepy and haunting as hell. And I love that line, "I command and follow Lucifer as the only guiding representative worth living for, Lucifer," when it's drawn out, but brilliant. Yep, Necrophiliac, Anthropophagus Maniac is also a great song, but undoubtedly my favorite track, of course, is the last one, which is called Murderous Music. Now, if you're not familiar with this song, it's not really a conventional black metal song. It's a very somber, soft song where it's just like a very lightly tapped drum rhythm, and the majority of the song is dominated by simply keyboards and saxophone. So the keyboards are really haunting and melancholic and depressing, and then there's just this eerie atmospheric saxophone being played over the top by Motorzen, I think that's his name. But it's kind of it's depressing and it's sorrowful, yet it's so incredibly atmospheric. And the song is, unfortunately, it's about the S word, which I won't say here, otherwise my video will get censored. So obviously I don't condone or advocate that, but the lyrics match the song so well. And just as the song climaxes, the keyboards build, and it's just, it soars for the heights, this song, despite it being a very depressing topic. But every time I listen to this song called Murderous Music, it gives me the chill. But yeah, if you like really haunting, atmospheric black metal, definitely listen to this track. Although I don't condone the message of it, but I think, again, it's done for shock value or whatever. But yeah, from Carpathian Forests, Defending the Throne of Evil, the last track, called Murderous Music. Okay, so sticking with some black metal for the next choice. There's a few of them in here, not surprisingly. So up next, another album where I think the closing track is the best on the album. This is from Darkthrone's Plague Wielder. One of those underrated mid-period albums from Darkthrone, which of course need no introduction. Darkthrone are one of the most legendary Norwegian black metal bands, and as you know, in my top 3 favorite bands. This album came out 2001, 2002, something like that. So a lot of people thought by this point the band had slowed down and weren't as interested perhaps, but I disagree. I think every Darkthrone album has some really worthwhile songs. Like, while this is not one of my favorite albums, it's got some really good ones. I think a lot of people like the opening track Weakling Avenger, which is good. I think my favorite tracks on this album are the even ones, so I really like Raining Murder and also Command, with the backing vocals are fantastic. Command injecting strychnine with Apollyon's backing vocals, which are fantastic. But of course, my favorite track is the last one, which is Wreak. That's W-R-E-A-K, as in wreak havoc. Now, so many excellent moments on this song. Like, I love the bouncy, swaggering riff, which starts like dan 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 dan, like just that dirty kind of punky rock and roll Darkthrone riff. And Nocturno Colto's vocals are absolutely acidic and menacing. Like, I love the main line in it is lacerate, damage, Wreak, and it's like lacerate, damage, Wreak. Just that retching. It sounds fucking evil and menacing. I just love it. But again, this song has a lot of twists and turns. Interestingly, by this point, the band had sort of gone in a more sort of like mid-paced, groove-oriented direction. But what they do on this last track, interestingly, is they return to some of those sort of tremolo, melancholic, fast riffs, which they're so famous for on albums like Transylvanian Hunger, which is one of my favorite Darkthrone albums. So there's really melancholic, bleak-sounding, depressive kind of riffs, which are fantastic. And I really like, there's just so many catchy moments on this song. Like, there's some catchy lyrics. Like, one of my favorite lyrics on it is immer always blasphemous. So if you're not familiar, immer means always in German, but they say it in two languages to reinforce it, like immer always blasphemous. I love that part. And there's also a bridge with some really bouncy riffs, but then they revert to those Darkthrone-esque, sorry, not Darkthrone-esque, Transylvanian Hunger-esque riffs, like, which remind me of Transylvanian Hunger songs like Graven Tarkenheimen Sala or Ian Haldmed Flesk og Mjod. Sorry about my butchery of Norwegian. But yeah, it's just like, it's groovy and it's mid-pace and it's catchy, but then there are sections where they're sort of harkening back to the old glory days of Darkthrone, but they just do it so well. And another good lyric in it is scepters raised in fucking fury. Yeah, so a lot of standout lyrics, a lot of standout musical moments, and then just at the end when it finally stops, there's this eerie sound of wind howling and a fire crackling, and it's just such a gloomy end to a brilliant song and a brilliant album. So that's my next choice, Darkthrone with Wreak from Plague Wielder. All right. So finished, in alphabetical order. Okay, so going to some vinyls now, because we're sticking to alphabetical order anyway. So just wondering where to make the break. Up next we have some Canadian death metal. Legendary band and album. This is Gorguts with Considered Dead. So this album needs no introduction. If you consider yourself to be a death metal fan and you don't own this album or you haven't heard of this album, go and rectify that. Listen to it immediately after this video. This is in my top 5 death metal albums of all time. It's a lot of people, yes, it is technical death metal, but it's not stupidly technical. Like, there's still a lot of groove in the songs. And what I love about this album particularly is the fact that Gorguts have this amazing ability to capture these dark emotions in their music and in the lyrics, like feelings of like foreboding, helplessness, sorrow, depression. I don't know, but especially that concept of hopelessness. That seems like a recurring theme in some of their songs. Like, for example, in the title track, Considered Dead, also in Stiff and Cold, also Rotten Anatomy, also Drifting Remains. Yeah, so that's what I really like about this band. They really make this kind of depressing death metal, but it's just so brilliantly done. So many good tracks on this, some of which I had mentioned. Now, you've probably heard me talking about this album in the past and heard me say that probably my favorite track is Rotten Anatomy, which is a song about being lost in the jungle and starving to death, but it really captures that emotion of hopelessness so well. But it was always competing with one other track. Like, I also really like Hematological Allergy, especially the groovy riff in the beginning of that. But the other song that Rotten Anatomy competed with, which I've since decided is my favorite song, is the final track, of course, which is Inoculated Life. Brilliant song. Like, last night I listened to Rotten Anatomy and Inoculated Life together, but Inoculated Life, that has just got so many excellent moments. It's just brilliant. Like, again, it's a depressing topic, about, well, inoculated, you get the picture, but they describe, scientific processes and, birth giving gone wrong and horrible things that happen. But there's so many groovy riffs. Like, and the lyrics are done so well. Like I love the opening track when it's before the main riff kicks in, and he goes talking about birth. Some could be painful at times, and just Luke LeMay. He's such a good storyteller with his lyrics and the vocals. You know, especially that part where he says, "Everything went fine until I got weird. Some weird pain inside of me. Unable to eat, vomit endlessly," and like these fast, frantic riffs. It's really cool. But of course, the highlight moment of this song is the groove riff, the money riff, when they launch into the chorus, which is "Inoculated Life," and he's inoculated. But that groovy, plodding, kind of chugging riff, it's so good, and they just stick to that for a long time. In the groove, it just keeps going. They keep repeating this riff, and it matches the lyrics so well. I particularly like the lyrics which match with that riff, which go, "Gory delivery, entrails will follow as they pull out the feeders. Doctors wait for surgery, disgusting mutation." See, I'm singing it in the musical pattern, disgusting mutation that science has never seen. But it's so brilliant. And then, of course, it features an epic guitar solo by James Murphy, who was, of course, in Death, Cancer, Disincarnate, and Obituary. So, like, one of the top dogs for death metal lead guitar, and his solo on that song, "Inoculated Life," is so brilliant. But I just love it. It just adds to the epicness of that song. But that main groove-driven riff, it's so good, and it just really gels well with these depressing lyrics about hopelessness and despair. It's absolutely fantastic. So that would be my next choice from Gorguts' Considered Dead, "Inoculated Life." All right. Okay, switching genres now to some heavy metal. I don't need to say much about this, so I won't. But yes, Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. And of course, the final track is "Hallowed Be Thy Name." I don't know why I looked at the cover, I know that for a fact. But yeah, I was just looking to compare other songs, like so many brilliant songs on this album. "Children of the Damned" is great. "The Prisoner," 22 Acacia. I could just read all of the songs here. But as you've probably heard me say in a recent heavy metal vinyl video, "Hallowed Be Thy Name" is my favorite because it's just such a dramatic song. In terms of the lyrics and the theme of the song, which are talking about a man who's sentenced to death and he's going to hang from the gallows pole at dawn, and the song's talking about all the depressing and morbid thoughts going through his mind as he reflects on the final moments of his life. So it's really chilling. As I've said, that song gives me the chills, like the hairs on my arm stand up when I'm listening to that, because it's so emotional, especially with Bruce's vocals, the way he screams the vocals, yet melodically, so desperately, like capturing that feeling of desperation. But you know, of course, musically, it's great as well. Like that opening part with the bell really sets the tone, and then it starts to gallop. You know, when he says "the sands of time for me are running low," and it starts to gallop, you really picture that happening, like, oh, time's running out, and that galloping riff is so good. And then, of course, there are the bombastic parts and the really fast riffs, brilliant guitar solos, and then just that recurring galloping riff in the main song. It's so good, coupled with Bruce's emotional lyrics. And yeah, I just absolutely love this song. Undoubtedly my favorite song on the album, "Hallowed Be Thy Name." But there's not really any bad tracks on this album. Some people say "Invaders" is a throwaway, and I kind of agree. It's not terrible, but it's not one of my favorites. I think "Gangland" is a really underrated one, and a lot of people hate that. But yeah, undoubtedly the 10 out of 10 track on this album for me, and one of my favorite Maiden songs of all time, would be "Hallowed Be Thy Name" from Number of the Beast. And I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me there, perhaps. All right, so now I'm pleased to introduce some other genres. It's good to maintain some variety in these videos. So this is out of left field, slightly. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this band, but I really do, so there you go, it's my video. From Kiss's album, Crazy Nights, which came out in 1987. So yeah, like I said, I know a lot of metal fans don't really like Kiss. Then again, I know a lot who do. But you know, in the 80s, they went in a more metallic direction. However, this album was a bit interesting because they deliberately went in a poppier direction again. They had sort of done that at the beginning of the 80s, like on Unmasked, and then they reverted to this kind of like, this album is so 1987, so MTV, you know, like it's very poppy, and it's got a lot of kind of widdly-diddly guitar solos, but like, no disrespect to Bruce Kulick because he's a really talented guitarist, but it's kind of those like, very sort of, this album has a kind of very cheesy 80s sound, which isn't always bad, but this is just not among my favorites. Like, it's still a worthwhile album though. Like, Reason to Live is a fantastic power ballad. I just love that song. Turn on the Night is really good as well. That was another single. Yeah, this is a good album, but the band went sort of in a poppy direction because they got Ron Nevison to produce them after Ozzy got a hit with Shot in the Dark, so they were trying to replicate that. And yeah, it is a good album, but it's just, there's a lot of tracks that I don't like on this one actually. They sound a bit like a headache with the falsetto vocals and stuff, but one track which is absolutely fucking brilliant and the best one on the album in my opinion is the last track, Thief in the Night. So not to be confused with Turn on the Night. Interestingly, those two tracks are in a row, so Turn on the Night and Thief in the Night. But Thief in the Night, that's a Gene song. So Gene wrote that and it's heavy as fuck. And it's kind of like uncharacteristic of this album. It doesn't really quite fit in, but it's so good. It's sort of like a dark heavy metal song. It's got a very 1987 or late 80s atmosphere, but it is just so good. Like the riffs in this, especially with Gene's bass lines, they crunch, and featuring Gene's fantastic vocals. As I've mentioned before, I think Gene was my favorite vocalist out of the 4 original members, but it's so good. The lyrics are really memorable, and I really love the pre-chorus in this, where it's got some power chords in that line. It's a ritual slaying. If you haven't heard the song, go and listen to it. It's so good, but that pre-chorus is so dark and atmospheric. It's brilliant. And then the chorus is really good as well. Like a thief in the night, she breaks into his heart. Oh, Gene just has the ability to write some really good songs. Like in the 80s, he wrote a lot of songs which were deep cuts. They didn't become singles, but they were really good. But Thief in the Night is awesome. And the absolute climax of this song is Bruce Kulick's guitar solo. Fucking blows my mind. It's unbelievable. Like after the second chorus, like a thief in the night, all right, Bruce just wails into this screechy melodic guitar solo, which is just heavy as balls, really dark, really atmospheric, and just so brilliantly played. Like he was so dexterous with his fingers, like the notes he could play. That solo kicks ass. Like I think most people say the best Bruce solo was, just had a mind warp, but you know, from another famous song which featured Bruce on it. But yeah, I think Thief in the Night is the best Kiss guitar solo I've heard from the 80s period. Trust me, even if you don't like Kiss, listen to the last song on this album from Crazy Nights, Thief in the Night, because it's brilliant. So that's my next choice, Thief in the Night from Crazy Nights. All right. Okay, what have we got next? Going back to some CDs. Now, sorry guys, I'm taking too long. You know what? It's my enthusiasm. It's, yeah, annoying, but there you go. Okay, so coming up next, going back to some black metal now, from Marduk's Heaven Shall Burn When We Are Gathered. So you probably heard me mention before, this album is also in my top 3 Marduk albums. So you've heard me say that Panzer Division Marduk is, you've heard me say my favorite, so now you know my top 3 Marduk albums. But I won't say what position it is for now. No, I'll leave that a secret, but it's definitely in the top 3. But this is just such a brilliant album. The first to be produced by Peter Tegtrin, which led to a lot of other bands wanting to get produced at Abyss Studios. This is just really fast, barbaric, brutal, blasting black metal, but it's so slickly polished and produced. So, but not in a bad way. Everything just sounds thunderous and heavy as fuck. Really evil, menacing riffs, which sort of combine violence with that depressive feeling, particularly on songs like The Black Tormentor of Satan. Frederick Anderson's drumming is just absolutely explosive and thunderous, like a fucking human M16 that guy is. Unbelievable. Sorry, I'm swearing so much today. Maybe it's because I'm just completely enthusiastic, or maybe that illustrates a lack of vocabulary, or both. Anyway, yeah, such a brilliant album. If you haven't heard it and you're a black metal fan, do yourself a favor, just crank this up. My favorite tracks on this tend to be the even numbered tracks, like Beyond the Grace of God, Glorification of the Black God. That's probably my close second track. And then also The Black Tormentor of Satan. So they're tracks 2, 4, and 6. But undoubtedly, I think the strongest track on the album is the last track, entitled Legion. Just such a brilliant closer to an album because it's so explosive and violent, and it really sends the anti-Christian and satanic message home. In case you didn't catch it earlier on the album, doubtful. But yeah, it's so good. It just starts with this cymbal tapping, like, tss, 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 tss. And then as everything comes in at once, the drums, guitars, vocals, and bass. And with the vocals, it's Legion doing this kind of puking motion where he's and I've actually seen a video on YouTube where they made a video of a woman puking on a bus, literally, and they synced the intro of Legion with that. So it's kind of funny. It's like But anyway, and like just thunderous blast beats, brilliant, menacing riffs on this album, which are just so infernal sounding. You'll know what I mean when you listen to it. Legion's vocals are as powerful and charismatic as ever. The lyrics are absolutely brilliant as well. And these riffs are just so menacing and haunting sounding. It's great. And then there's a lot of variations in it, like the sort of bridge part at the end. It's so good, and you hear how well the bass is produced on this album. You know that the melodic riff at the end that goes and then the way they introduce the blast beat, like, so they play that, it's just the guitar on its own, and then you hear the drums and the bass kick in, like doom, and it's just so thunderously heavy, and then the tap in, and then the blast beats come in with Legion's vocals, and just love that line he says in it, which is, with the demons that possess my blackened heart and soul, I will strive for Satan's triumph and reach infernal goals. Then they shift into this thunderous, groovy part, and that other part, you know, children of darkness, raise your blood-filled cups to our Father with horns, yes, that's right, in eternity we shall blaspheme the one who was tormented with thorns. And it goes back to that blast beat and the menacing riff. It's fucking awesome. I'll stop going on about this song now, but yeah, so many good songs on this album. Yeah, like the even tracks, 2, 4, 6, and 8 are my favorite, but they're all good. But undoubtedly, the favorite track for me, because it just hammers home the message, is the final track, Legion, from Marduk's Heaven Shall Burn When We Are Gathered. All right. Now, this one's coming out of left field. We have a new genre again. So this might surprise some people, not everybody though. But yes, good to change it up with a variety of genres. So up next, this is Nirvana with Incesticide. So of course, Nirvana don't need an introduction to most people. One of the most famous grunge band of all times, even though they didn't like the label. Before I go any further, it's okay. You don't need to unsubscribe. It's fine, okay? Like, just because this is not black metal, death metal, or grindcore, doesn't mean you have to unsubscribe. Take it easy. I'm just kidding, but you know, it's just, it blows my mind sometimes if you ever talk about anything other than extreme metal. Some people immediately unsubscribe, so that's my own in-joke, shall we say. But yes, this is kind of cheating actually, because this was not officially an album. This is like a compilation of B-sides, demos, and kind of throwaway tracks. Although, having said that, there are some really good songs on it. And I remember at the time this came out, my friends and I, you know, after the first 2 albums, we were so sort of like hungry for new material. We considered this to be an album. And it was only like later on that I discovered it wasn't an official album. But yeah, a lot of great songs on this. Don't believe people who say this is crap. There's some really good stuff on this, like Stain is really good. I like that song. What else? Been a Sun is good. Mexican Seafood, one of my favorite tracks. That's a classic example of a grunge band naming a song with nothing to do with the lyrics, which I think is pretentious as fuck, but still the song is really good. I also really like Hairspray Queen, and the last few tracks actually, Aero Zeppelin and Big Long Now, but undoubtedly my favorite song is Aneurysm, such a brilliant closing track. If you know it, you know it, but it's the most anthemic song on this compilation, definitely, and it's a great way to close the album. Like just that build up, it's got that soft intro, and then it just builds up, and then reverts to the soft part, and the verse, the vocal melodies and the lyrics are very memorable in the verse, and then of course there's that classic chorus which is beat me out of me, and then the backing vocals beat it. But yeah, sorry, I'm just saying the words because I'm not going to sing, sorry about that, but if you go and listen to the song, it's so good. And I know this song goes down really well live, Aneurysm, because in Thailand, in Bangkok in particular, there's this one punk covers band, and they always play this song, and it just goes off live. And it's, as I said, it's one of the most anthemic Nirvana songs. So it was never an official song from an official album, but it's really good. So that's my next choice. So that's Nirvana with Aneurysm from Incesticide. Not an official album, but oh well. All right. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, going back to vinyl now, reverting to some black metal. Up next, we have Satanic Warmaster with Karelian Satanist Madness. So most of you know that this is one of my favorite black metal bands of all time. Classic, haunting Finnish black metal, performed mostly by one guy, or it's his entity, which is Werewolf. This is one of his most iconic albums. Probably my favorite album, except I can't decide between this one and so Karelian Satanist Madness and Nachtera. It's very close. I alter between those, but this is so classic Finnish black metal, but it has that really characteristic nutcase Finnish sound, and there's elements of Finnish folk music creeping in just slightly, or that Finnish sound anyway. But it's such a frostbitten, melancholic Nordic black metal album. I just love it. So many good songs on this, like the opening track, the Vampiric Tyrant. Also the title track is fantastic. Oh, they're all good. My Dreams of Eight is good. My Kingdom of Darkness is one of the most famous songs. But in actual fact, my favorite track is the last one, Blessed Be the Grim Arts. So if you're familiar with this album, you'll know that's not really even a black metal song. So like I said, obviously I like well, it's not classic black metal, so let me explain. Like all the other 7 songs are conventional black metal, but this song, Blessed Be the Grim Arts, it's like a synthesizer track with some spoken words. So it consists of these haunting synthesizers, which actually resemble church organs. It has this very grandiose, big sound, and it's got Werewolf, doing the raspy vocals to that, and it's kind of like not vocal patterns or not to a rhythm. It's kind of like a speech or a statement of hate, and it's so good. But just coupled with those powerful pipe organs and the melodies really stick in your head, it's absolutely fantastic. This sort of reminds me of the Satanic Warmaster equivalent of a Manowar song, which might sound ludicrous, but I know that Werewolf and a lot of these Finnish black metal bands, they're big fans of Manowar. Like I saw Werewolf performing Fighting the World with Stormheit at a Finnish metal festival. So yeah, but there's a tribute, but I think this song, Blessed Be the Grim Arts, is like a Satanic Warmaster equivalent of the Manowar song, The Crown and the Ring, with the organs, and that's one of my favorite, from Kings of Metal, that's one of my favorite Manowar songs. But imagine that, but it's just more grim and melancholic and more black metal, but it's absolutely brilliant. And as the keyboards build in this song with the spoken word, then they have more layers of keyboards come in, and it almost resembles the sound of flutes or something, but it's just so sorrowful and reflective, and such a great somber way to conclude a blasting black metal album. So of course I love the black metal on this album, but for me the last track, it's just the strongest because it stands out the most, and it's a fantastic way to round off a brilliant album. So that's my next choice, Satanic Warmaster with Blessed Be the Grim Arts from Karelian Satanist Madness. Alright, coming to the last one. Now this is out of left field again, because we're going to yet another subgenre of metal, so there's a lot of variety in this video. Once again, if you don't like glam metal, you don't have to unsubscribe from the channel, okay? I just like some variety in the videos. But my last choice, number 10, so for closing tracks which are the best, from Warrant's album, DRFSR. So this was a band which everyone sort of considered Johnny-come-latelys in the hair metal scene, because all those other bands like Motley Crue, Rat, even Poison had been around a lot longer than these guys. I think this album came out in 1989, so they were late to the game, but as I've said before, they're one of my favorite glam metal bands. I think they're criminally underrated. Just because they were latecomers doesn't mean they had something to offer. Janie Lane had an absolutely fantastic voice, and the guitarists were really talented. They were just a solid band, and they wrote so many good songs, Janie Lane being the primary songwriter. Now, this album is undoubtedly my favorite by them, but I also like the second one and the third one, bits and pieces of others. But this one spawned a lot of singles, I think. Like one of them was Down Boys, which is really good. Also the 2 sort of ballady singles, Sometimes She Cries and Heaven. Now, I'm not really a fan of ballads, but they are good, especially Sometimes She Cries. But there's so many other great tracks on this. Like I also like 32 Pennies, So Damn Pretty, Should Be Against the Law, the title track, In the Sticks. Go and listen to that song, because that's absolutely brilliant, one of my favorites on the album, and I used to consider that one to be my favorite, but just eclipsing it slightly is the final track, which is Cold Sweat. So if you're not familiar with Cold Sweat, it's just a straightforward metallic rocker, but it's such a great way to conclude a brilliant album. Like In the Sticks would have been my favorite, except that's a bit stop-starty with the riffs, but the vocals are fantastic in that song. But this last track, it's just a no-holds-barred, straightforward glam metal song, which is just rockingly awesome. Like it starts with that fret screech, like, and then I've got alligator shoes, so it's like Janie's really melodic voice with the guitars and just the drums tapping, but then everything kicks in, and he goes, I've got plenty of booze, give it a shot, all the backing vocals, and then it just kicks into this full throttle hard rock heavy metal song, which has got some swagger, The melody is infectious, the riffs are fantastic. The chorus is absolutely brilliant, and with those kind of shouty backing vocals. This is another band which was brilliant with those kind of anthemic football fan backing vocals. But yeah, so many great moments on that song. The guitar solos are excellent, and yeah, there's just some very memorable lyrics on this song as well, which make it very easy to sing along to. But interestingly, the second last track, which is Riding High, the riff is kind of similar, so it's interesting that they put two songs which sounded very similar together. Riding High and Cold Sweat. They're kind of like sister songs, and I really like Riding High too, but Cold Sweat is just more sort of a straightforward, gritty rocker, so the perfect way to conclude a very varied album. But yeah, if you haven't heard this album, definitely check it out if you can open your mind to glam metal, and definitely check out the last track, which is my favorite, entitled Cold Sweat. Shed all those perceptions you may have about cheesy glam metal. This is actually a really rocking good song. So Cold Sweat from Warrant's DRFSR. Okay guys, so I've been rambling on enough now. So yes, there you have it. These are 10 albums, 10 official albums, where I think the closing or final track is the best. So tell me, what do you think of these albums? What's your opinion? Let's get some discussion going in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider subscribing. Once again, to Just Another Heavy Metal Maniac. Great idea for a response to a response, so to speak, but I really enjoyed this idea and making this video, and I hope you did too. So hope you enjoyed watching it. So that's it guys. I'll be away for a couple of weeks, but I'll do my best to be back with a video soon, so I won't waste any more of your time. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers, bye.